very essence is where two or more parties come together for a joint enterprise. And really there's two elements to a joint venture. You're looking at the sort of the hard asset side of it and a soft asset side. And normally one party has one and the other party has the others. And by the hard asset side, what I really mean is cash or resources, the ability to do things. And the soft asset side, that's really the more sort of intellectual property, know-how, or an idea or a skill set. And a joint venture allows two parties which either have none or only a little of the other to come together to make one greater whole. Currently there's a preponderance of joint ventures really because of the lack of cash in general. So trying to raise finance, as everybody knows, is very difficult from banks, and to the extent you can raise finance, in the same way if you're trying to raise finance from a bank for your house, you need to put much more equity in it. And so parties who've got cash to do projects may not have enough cash. And in the same way you may have, for example, in property development, you've got developers who've got a skill set, who've got a past history of developing properties, but they don't have the money and they can't get it from the bank in the way they used to. So they're going to parties who've got cash, to funds, private equity vehicles, whatever it may be, to try and put that cash in and allow them to do projects that they think they can deliver and do well. I disagree with people when they say that joint ventures are a last resort in these tough economic times. In reality, joint ventures have been around for a long while. It's merely because of the lack of access to finance in the current times that people are talking more about them and they're more in the news. Joint ventures are really, in many ways, a bit of a leap of faith. And the key thing that you have to have, really, with the other side is trust. And the reason why you need to have trust is that as soon as you enter into a joint venture, you lose control. And that's the key issue that people always forget, really, when they enter this joint venture, is that if they own the asset, the business or the project themselves, they control it utterly. If they want to close it down, they can close it down. If they want to change the direction, they can change the direction. As soon as you get into bed with somebody else, suddenly you have to take on board somebody else's ideas, you have to listen to what they want to do, you have to give up the ability to do what you want to do. And that is the real disadvantage with it. In terms of the advantage, it's access to skills or assets that you don't have. It's the ability to do projects which you currently can't do at the moment.
Politicians also presume they can be good at alliances, but that doesn't always translate into success. Nigel, what do you see here in terms of what some key points on this?
I think part of the challenge here is the mentality or the approach to an alliance and a joint venture. And Kurt, you mentioned that most average companies have 60 alliances and joint ventures. When companies are making an acquisition, they have control. It's my way or the highway, and they can change course and pivot through the life cycle of that business that they've acquired. They have the ability to change out management. They can change the culture. They can change the strategic direction, et cetera, et cetera. When you are entering into an alliance or a joint venture, that's quite different. You have to collaborate. When you're dealing cross-border, collaboration can be quite different. But in a very simple case, you really have to have a meeting of minds around the goals and objectives, the management, the culture, a raft of different considerations, how long you're going to run the joint venture for, et cetera, et cetera. And so having that ability and that mentality of sharing, learning, and benefiting from the activities of that joint venture make it quite different. It really also means that before closing or signing, completing an alliance, those issues and those flexibilities need to be built in a way that the key executives and key stakeholders need to have anticipated as many challenges as they can in the construct and the framework of that alliance, so that once the switch is pulled, the business or the alliance can operate almost autonomously, because depending on how much influence and control there is from the outside, those key decisions need to have been anticipated and made up front.
Yeah, and I think one thing we see, if those can be good at acquisitions and alliances, those are going to be the leaders in tomorrow's.
Yeah, and I think it's learning. It's overall learning that there is a difference,
yep,
and building a database or an experience base really informs that.
Joint venture deals that haven't worked as well, and it's because we've not done our due diligence as efficiently as we should have up front.
We're going to be very disciplined, but also at the same time we're going to be very patient.
So if you're going to enter into a partnership, whether it's a joint venture or a true strategic partnership, I think you've got to put the time and energy in understanding the DNA of the business that you're looking to partner with, and just making sure that their objectives are aligned with you, and culturally there is a match. If you can achieve those two things, then I think you can get business success.
Let me tell you a little bit about joint ventures, because there's a misconception in business that everyone thinks that when you do a partnership or you do a deal, you have to compromise. And I think that is bullshit, pardon my language. I think that the way to do business and the way to do deals is win-win, and not win-win that the way that people think win-win, but win-win where everybody is so happy with their end of the deal that it spills out onto people around them, that surplus spills out, and that's what this meetup is about. We are so excited and so enthusiastic about putting this together that love and that enthusiasm and that fun and that excitement is going to spill out onto our community, and that's what a joint venture should create in the world.
Well, to go on more of the win-win, it's as if I'm winning in this deal because you're an amazing marketer, you have a tremendous amount of ability and knowledge in that area where I don't, and I get to leverage that, which is great.
We also get to get ourselves out in front of our community. We both offer products and services. Let's not pretend we don't.
Yeah.
I have things for sale. I do consulting. I do all kinds of stuff.
Right.
John does coaching, and so we're able to get ourselves and our names and our faces out in front of our community while having them be super stoked about it, because we're giving them all kinds of cool stuff. And that's how it should work. You should give value and then receive. How do you handle the money? How do you handle the money in a joint venture? Well, I'm going to tell you how you handle it. I've tried a bunch of different ways, 60-40, 70-30, you get nothing, I get everything. I've tried like everything that you can think of, and the best way to do business, expenses off the top, 50-50.
Yeah,
That
that's great.
is how you do business, because that has everyone feel really, really good. And you know what happens when people feel good? You do better in your business. So really, the key is to have the people that you're working with feel good about what's going on, because then they'll give their best. And who cares about an extra 5% or 10%? Wouldn't you rather have your business partner stoked and inspired and happy?
Well, they usually say 100% of nothing is nothing. 50% of 100,000 is 50 grand.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get 50% of 100 than 100% of nothing.
That's right.
And that's
Well, airlines are different from many other companies to the extent that they can't enter into huge cross-border mergers to create one enormous or two or three enormous global carriers. They're restricted by domestic legislation almost globally, to the extent that foreign investors can only invest normally up to a maximum of 49% in an airline in any particular jurisdiction. And so for that reason, in order for airlines to be able to serve their passengers who are looking to travel from anywhere to anywhere, they need to enter into arrangements with other carriers to allow them to broaden their scope and their reach, and to best serve consumers. Most people have heard of the three large global airline alliances, the Star Alliance, the One World Alliance, and the SkyTeam Alliance. And I guess a lot of people will think that those amount to joint ventures themselves, when in fact that's not quite right. Within each of those alliances, there are joint ventures between airlines. So we know a well-known example is British Airways and American Airlines, which created a joint venture about 10 years ago to service largely transatlantic routes. Very beneficial for each of those airlines, because they could service the transatlantic routes, but also then feed those transatlantic passengers onto their networks, both in Europe in BA's case and in the US in American's case. In Asia, we've been involved in various joint ventures as well, where perhaps larger carriers are looking to, or larger full-service carriers are looking to enter into the low-cost carrier market. And by doing that, the best way, the quickest way, because they don't have the expertise themselves, is to enter into a joint venture with a low-cost carrier that gives them the brand reach, gives them the culture, the ethos and so on that low-cost carriers have, full-cost carriers don't have. So joint ventures can be either between two large full-service carriers, they can be between two low-cost carriers. The most important piece of advice is really consider what it is that you're trying to achieve. There are a number of different types of joint ventures. Are you looking to team up with an airline that would normally be a rival in order to try and assist both of you to increase your traffic on a particular route? Are you looking to enter into a joint venture with a larger or a smaller carrier? In that case, whose brand will you be using? How will you protect that brand? How are you going to sell tickets to passengers? Most importantly, I think it's vital that airlines take competition law advice in relation to whatever they're planning to do.
Schiphol Brooke was founded on June 6, 1951. It is headquartered in Shanghai with its branch office in Gdynia. Over its 65-year history, the company appeared in many occasions representing the friendship between China and Poland. In 1961, when China was stricken by widespread famine, Schiphol Brooke mobilized all its 7 vessels to ship grain, seeds and fertilizer to China. In 1980, Schiphol Brooke shipped 80,000 tons of pork from China to Poland to ease the country's food shortage.
There are a lot of memories. In the company's history, we have experienced different periods, bad and good. Chinese and Polish workers have worked together to go through everything and will continue to navigate the company through difficulties.
The company has expanded its business from Europe-Asia routines to worldwide shipping services. This is Schiphol Brooke Star arriving at port of Antwerp. Commander Yu Huiming is busy preparing documents for customs clearance.
Goods shipped here in recent years are quite different from those in the past. We used to ship a lot of agri products. Now industrial products account for most of the shipments. This is a significant change. In the past, industrial products were shipped to China from Europe. Now we move them from China to outside.
As Chinese exports change, our company follows, adjusting our business strategy in accordance.
Starting as a government-backed company, Schiphol Brooke is now a modernized shipping service provider. In response to growing competition in the industry, Schiphol Brooke has shifted its focus to transportation of heavy equipment. Its professionalism has won the company a high reputation. Meanwhile, the company remains a link between China and Poland. Its success has set an example for China and Poland economic cooperation. Laura Lo, CCTV News.